Hey everyone, welcome to another fantastic edition of Radio Free Decipher.
It is fantastic. It's also a day early, and those of you who might be wondering about this, we're goofing off on Friday, basically.
The Decipher offices will be closed tomorrow.
Yes. So. Our leader, Warren, has kind of declared a little celebratory day for a second quarter wrap-up for us, so we are not going to work.
We're going to be playing softball, tennis, I guess there's cooking, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
What do people involved with games do?
We go play games.
We go play games.
Right,
so anyway, that is why you get RFD today. We are joined today by Brad DeFruiter of the TCG Design Studio. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
We have not had you on since your Welcome to Decipher interview a few months ago.
Yes. And Brad so poignantly pointed out to us right before this episode started that we had a little bit of a flub, I guess, on a recent RFD. Brad, why don't you bring it to everyone's attention? Because we all thought it was very funny. We were like, well, that just goes to show you how enormously professional we are here at RFD.
Well, I don't remember which exact episode of RFD it was, so people can go back and look through it, but one of them starts off, instead of it starting off with this big boom, hello everybody, it's
right.
So are we recording now?
That's
really
that's good.
Classic.
I love what we do.
It's so total Kyle though too, just to hear your voice say, so is this going on now?
Oh man.
So tell us, Brad, now that you've had a few months to settle in here, what do you think?
I think that I've done lots of work that's gone nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much when you arrived, we were working on the new Trek game, which is now back on a back burner as we work on the second edition, which I hope is what you're here to talk about.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I actually wanted to come and make fun of you guys, but
well, you can do that too.
It might be productive to talk a little bit about.
Well, you can do both.
Second edition.
Well, let's talk about the second edition then.
Let's do it. So, what all have you? What processes have you been going through right now in developing the second edition for Star Trek?
One thing that the team did right off the bat is we went through and looked at a lot of cards that we didn't like or were confusing. That we wanted to, we see cards like this and just say this deters people.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a card filled with so much text that is so hard to read through, and we went through a lot of rules that said this rule detracts from the game instead of helping the game.
I have this vision in my head, Brad, of you going through the how big is the current rulings for Star Trek?
Oh my gosh,
it's 70-page glossary.
Right. I have this picture in my head of you just going through and just going, nope, we don't want this page anymore, and just tossing it on the floor. You know, nope, we don't want this page anymore.
Yeah, and we actually use matches instead. We just
you burn.
Selective burning. Controlled burns going on there.
Actually, in our first pass, the rules were more me and cards were more Brad. He had these little colored sticky tabs that he was putting on pages in his 9-pocket binder.
Right.
This card's okay, this card's not.
Exactly. At first I thought it was going to be put sticky cards on these little pieces of colored tape on the cards that would translate well over into second edition. No, that wouldn't translate is what I originally thought, and it ended up being the opposite way around.
Okay.
To conserve on tabs.
Wow.
Now this is not just they're out once and for all. Some of these they could be in, but they'll need to get rewritten heavily.
Of course not. All of this stuff is guideline stuff, and it's the same with the rules too. It's more of a guideline of what we envision would be better gameplay in the future. It of course isn't saying that we said, oh, this is out and it will never appear again. I mean, that's not true. And so many things change during the design process that it's crazy to think that we make a decision and we never turn back and never look back at anything.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that people out there are really looking forward to is getting some sort of information on what you guys are looking at keeping and what you're looking at moving away from, all that kind of stuff. Are there any sort of generalities? I know you guys can't go into too specifics at this point, but can you give us an idea of
it's
what
not that we don't want to, it's just that once we say something, it's like repeated back on the board always and forever. Like I noticed a few things that happened to get posted last week that I think Sean had come on and was just making a couple of posts where he he was making his own guesses because, Sean really didn't know much more than you guys at that point, and he guessed a few things wrong, but then people were parroting it back as though a Decipher employee had, said it and it was law. So I just want to, before we go down this road, make it very clear to everybody that nothing we're about to say is fixed in stone, but this is where we're kind of working right now. So.
And this is one reason why we're not on the bulletin board answering every question that people put up.
Yeah.
There's times where I would just love to answer every single question, but I'm just so afraid that we'll say, yeah, we're thinking about doing X, Y, Z, and then someone says, oh, they're doing X, Y, Z, when there's no intention. It was a stray thought.
Right.
Well, here's a perfect example.
Well, and also things have changed a couple times since we've done this.
This is true.
Sure. Here's a perfect example. While we were at Origins, the meaning of the keyword Valiant on Eowyn had at one time meant that she could, had meant one thing. And so I was out there telling people, this is what it means. This is what I understand that it means. But however, it could change in the future. And now it has changed, but people are still under the idea that this is what it means and this is set in stone. So, they need to be aware that these things are going to be able to be changed at this point.
But with that in mind, I guess we'll give you a few tidbits. Brad, you want to start?
Oh, yeah.
Brad's eyes just got really big. It's like, what are we going to say? What are we going to say? What are we getting ourselves into?
One thing for sure is that we're going to keep missions.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to keep dilemmas.
Mm-hmm.
That won't go away. But negative experience with dilemmas being that there's a mass kill dilemma. I hit this dilemma. I don't have randomology skill. I'm dead.
For those that aren't into all this Trek lingo, what is a mass kill dilemma?
That just kills everybody that encounters that dilemma.
These would be dilemmas like Barclay's protomorphosis disease, Borg ship, the Shellyak, anything that will, with very few outs, anything that'll kill everybody who is involved in the mission attempt. Those are probably going to die the big death.
Right.
Just because it's just too negative an experience. It puts too high a risk factor on attempting the missions. You don't want to go attempt a mission until you're absolutely Iron Fortressed, because you know that one wrong step and they'll all be dead.
Sure.
Right. And it's just no fun on either player's side or planning. I think it tends. That's where we get some of the solitaire stereotypes of the game. Is that it's just because people are afraid to go out there and risk something because they're going to lose everything.
Right.
Now we right now we're still believing that you should lose some things. Space, it's a dangerous place. It's not for everybody to go out there and meander around. There's chances you will lose people. You lose people to some battle, maybe to some verbs and to some dilemmas. But wiping everybody out right now, that's on our negative list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the Q dilemma?
Q is never coming.
Well, and I'll explain why. Is that Q, the idea of both effects that Q has are negative experiences. One being that you get rid of all your opponent's dilemmas that are to be countered from then on out. That is messy. You know, that's just a negative experience. There was some planning put in those dilemmas, and suddenly they're circumvented.
Right.
The other effect of Q, where it rearranges the space line, this is also...
It brings the game to a grinding halt.
Yeah, it's a negative energy time. I'm spending time messing around with this, and my opponent just sits there and watches me.
Right.
This takes away some of the fun, Maybe I can politic him to move stuff around, but... And also with a space line where there's so many different things happening, there's different things at different locations. To be able to rearrange a space line, it's just messy, and it creates more rules confusion that we want to try to avoid. So moving space line locations probably won't happen very much.
Looking at dilemmas has been something that we've spent a lot of time playing sample games under our new vision of what dilemmas work like, and we still think there's a lot of strategy there, but now it's much more about trying to stop your opponent right there in that short term and not, just utterly wipe them out so you never have to think of them again. You can still stop them. You can definitely still fail a mission attempt. In fact, it happens a lot in the early game, in particular, but you don't get utterly wiped out of the game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What else? What else are you guys looking at, rules-wise?
Should we talk about the seed phase?
Yeah. Go for it.
Since I do, there
you do it. I don't want to be blamed for that.
there is no seed phase. We are trying to eliminate it now. This is
everybody question marks disappeared over everyone's head out there.
Yeah,
right.
I think a few people started panicking too. First of all, we understand that right now in the first edition, the seed phase is the place where a lot of strategy happens. We understand that. So when we talk about getting rid of the seed phase, we understand that we're getting rid of a lot of place where strategy happens, and that needs to be replaced elsewhere in the game. So don't worry about losing a lot of your strategic options. We're well aware of what will be lost there and going to try and put it back. But the seed phase needs to go because it is perceived by most non-expert level players and certainly all the new players as this setup time before you get to the quote-unquote real game.
Right.
And which
sometimes can take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
it can take a very long time, so that is going to go away.
Well, and even for the player that can set it up real quick or use some sort of speed seeding format, it's still a time where you're setting up the game instead of sitting down and playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that we feel that it's too long. That's just one of the many things about the seed phase that detracts from gameplay.
You're looking at basically being able to pop open a starter deck now, sit down with an opponent, and just go.
More or less.
Instead of
as close to that ideal as possible.
Okay.
And another big reason, as you got into, was the seed phase is not terribly gratifying from a strategic standpoint unless you're very much into delayed gratification, because the decisions that you make in the seed phase won't win you the game for quite some time. You won't find out until about 30, 45 minutes down the road whether the dilemmas you seeded at 12 o'clock are going to do anything to your opponent at 12:35 or whatever.
And then again, all it takes is a cue.
Right. So again, there are interactions that happen there in the seed phase, but we're going to try and find ways to push that into the game proper so that things that you can choose to do have an immediate effect, and your opponent and you both are well aware of what just happened. So that should, in the end, make the game more interactive as well, because things that you do generate an immediate response.
And just like Kyle said earlier, there's a whole bunch of people out there with question marks over their head, and believe me, people that have walked in and seen Evan or I or one of the in-house playtesters playing a game under this version, they almost always look into one of our hands and point and say, "What is that mission doing there?"
Yeah.
You know, what's that doing in your draw deck? You know, and it's.
I actually, I got to see you guys play it, and I was very intrigued by the new rules, and I'm actually looking forward to maybe sitting down with you guys sometime and trying it out.
Yeah, our next step really has got to be to write a lot of cards to support the mechanism that we've set in place, because right now the rules for this second edition seem more complicated than they really are, because a lot of the rules relate to how you translate cards on the fly. Because we know that we're going to be able to write new cards, but since we haven't yet, right now there's a whole glut of rules that are about, well, you take this card and you divide that number by 10 and round to the nearest this,
and
then
this number
add
now
that
means
to this,
that,
and that's how you get this result. You know,
Right.
it's really makes it look rougher than it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of costs that sometimes are just done in our head. You know, we'll put it down and say 3, and I know that someone walking by just goes 3.
Yeah, we're making up a lot of stuff on the fly too. Like, I think this card is this. Oh, well, sure, play it that way. just to see if the engine itself that we had in mind is
actually,
working.
That's right. I remember when I was watching you guys play that game, somebody played an event and goes, "Well, what does that cost?" I don't know, 2. Okay.
Yeah. Which I guess means we got another topic for Brad. It's your turn to explain that things will cost now.
Yeah, it's the current cost model for the current Star Trek cost. Yeah, the first edition is you play 1 card a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, to speed the game up and to add variety into the game, a whole bunch of play for free or lose a seed card to get a card into play type of costs was pseudo-invented.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just escalated to such a point where, I mean, if you watch someone play with a competitive deck, a lot of times first turn it's, I'll play this, I'll download this, I'll go grab this, I'll do this, I'll do that. And it's confusing and intimidating for a new player to sometimes see this.
Because they're like, wait, I thought I could play one card.
Right.
It's fairly binary, really, too. Either a card costs that card play or it doesn't. And there are other things you can do to put alternate costs, like, make somebody discard from hand or things like that. But ultimately, all you've got is whether it costs your card play or not. And that really is, that was the beginning of the end in some ways, where things started to get really bad for first edition. It was slow over time, but you can really pinpoint headquarters as a place where costing in first edition really went bad, because suddenly there were droves of cards that played for free, and that's what everybody wanted to use.
So we want to streamline some of that right off the bat, and we want to say that you get a certain allotment of reporting points of some sort, of meld points that will let you play cards, and cards get a certain value on them that gets played.
Mm-hmm. Meld points, by the way, is not a game term that we're looking at. It's just a reference to the fact that in common, 52 card deck variety games, playing cards is often called melding. So, we're just using it as a generic term.
Yeah.
It's not a reference to mind melding. It's not whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to scare anybody off there.
Wait, I have to put my hand on my opponent's face?
Yes. This cost to play things, as Brad was starting to imply, it's not going to be, the energy mechanic that the new game had. It's going to be simpler than that. But
and it's to allow players to play multiple cards or play a really kick butt card.
Right.
You'll be able to play one of these, or you'll be able to play 2 of these, good sized cards, or you'll be able to play 4 of these really neat cards. And the excitement that I'm having with it right now is that we're also mixing in some card drawing in with our card playing, and that what you don't play worth of these points you can convert over into a certain amount of card drawing.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be draw 1, play 1. Now it can be draw 2, play 3, or whatever. However
and these
you want
numbers,
to do it.
while we're sort of in agreement with what we have right now, we realize that these things are going to change.
Sure.
So I don't want anybody out there thinking that it's going to be, I can draw X amount of cards every turn and stuff like that.
They don't know what a card draw costs out of your points, and they don't know what each card costs out of your points or whatever.
Well, we have something right now we're comfortable with. I don't think we have anything that we're set in stone with that we want to announce that you get.
But
this is 47 points
at this point, it's all
like
still
that.
very malleable.
Right.
Yeah.
What else? That's a lot.
Yeah,
more than I planned on saying when I sat down at this microphone. So maybe we should stop there.
Yeah. I think that'll give a lot of people some ideas of what we're thinking.
Yeah.
But it can also give them some ideas of what they will see coming out for the next game. Right. And I hope that it goes over and that people can think this through a little bit and realize how much more balance this just imposes into the game.
Yeah.
And it still allows for so much freewheeling and doing so many different things, that infinite possibilities thing.
The other thing that I thought was really cool is, even though there are a lot of different things that are going on with the game, right now in the iteration that you have of the game, there's still a space line. There's still your ship and your crew flying up and down the space line. So you still got all that kind of stuff, which I thought was really good. Yeah,
we're trying to keep that basic flavor and the basic tools the same. And change everything up. No, but it's not change for change's sake. I mean, there are very specific reasons for everything we're doing, and you see it because we have had these meetings, hours and hours long meetings every day.
Well, and that's
weeks.
why we're talking about writing cards now, is because we've been in so many meetings and so many discussions.
Right.
And,
now it's time to put all that theory into practice.
Right. And we're also always talking about how this will work backwards compatible.
Right.
Because we know that's a big point for a lot of people, and it's got a lot of people excited, and it's got us excited too, because we can do some backwards compatible stuff. And I know there's at least 24 people out there right now that are saying, how will a costing point work backwards compatible?
Well, you'll probably just ignore it, I guess. But
Yeah.
again, that's one of those things. Don't go fly that anywhere. But we'll find out.
Brad, before we let you go, I got one last question for both of you, and feel free. I know that I may be overstepping some stuff right here, so feel free to say no comment.
I think I know what's coming.
I just wanted to ask: are we going to see any Nemesis stuff in second edition?
I can't say. It's going to depend on our level of access to it. We are certainly going to try.
I'll tell you this, though. I'm very, very excited about Nemesis.
Yeah, me too.
This is an opening night, me banging at the theater door.
Just before we came down to record this, we were like frame by framing the trailer, like literally the minute that before we came down here.
You guys are even trying to pull images from the trailer?
We actually don't have the trailer yet. We were just like logged on to nemesis.startrek.com and scrolling through the QuickTime, looking at frames.
Oh, that could be a card.
Going, we want that, we want that. But we'll see. I truly, truly hope so, but we're not yet in a position where we can say for sure that there will be.
All right.
That aside, Nemesis looks very cool.
Yeah, it does.
That even number thing going on there.
The even number thing.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Brad.
You betcha.
We got some other items of business before we get going, so let's get to those.
Okay.
We are just, really close here to quite a few big tournaments coming up for both Star Trek and Lord of the Rings. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that, San Diego Comic-Con. The second Premier Series event for Lord of the Rings is going to be happening, and we're hearing lots of good buzz about that on the boards and stuff. People looking for hotel rooms and trying to find rides and stuff.
Well, the first one went over so well.
That's right. That's right. We got a lot of big names coming out for that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to win that. If we will have some top 16 repeats. I heard Kyle Kraft is going to be out there again. So
well, I'll tell you what interests me the most, and I'm really sorry that I'm not going to San Diego because of this, but at this event, Realms of the Elf Lords is legal, which was not the case at the previous event.
So it'll be much, much different.
Yeah, I will be interested to see the effects.
That's right. That's right. So that is going to be going on Friday and Saturday of San Diego Comic-Con. That same weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, I believe it's the 3rd and 4th, in Europe, is going to be the European Continental Championships.
Wow.
So I believe there's some information about that up on both DGMA and Decipher.com. So please go and check that out. They're doing all kinds of stuff. You're going to be able to get what are normally our convention promo cards, the oversized cards, you'll be able to get at the European Championships. There's going to be bajillions of tournaments going on, and of course the trip to DecipherCon for the champion of both the Star Trek and Lord of the Rings European Continental Championships.
The stakes are high.
That's right. The following weekend after that, which would be the 10th and 11th-ish, yeah. Gen Con is going on, and the North American Continental Championships will be going on there, and at stake is another trip to DecipherCon. So we'll see if all the Quebecers from Montreal can come down and have a great showing again.
They typically come in force to
That's
Gen
right,
Con.
as well as, there's a bajillion of people that will be from all over the Midwest going to that. It's actually, the correct number, bajillion. So.
All right.
So it'll be really good.
Their attendance was up last year. Anyway.
So it's going to be good. Gen Con, we're very looking forward to that, and the Continental Championships going on there. And as you mentioned just a little bit ago, Realms of the Elf Lords, legal.
It is now legal for those of you who are playing in your tournaments this coming weekend.
That's right. So I'm really interested to see what kind of decks kind of start. The meta really hasn't shaken itself out quite yet.
It was legal last weekend, actually.
That's right.
I didn't hear of any events locally that really dipped heavily into it.
You know what I'm honestly thinking? I think that a lot of the top players are keeping their decks to themselves right now so that they'll have the advantage at the Premier Series San Diego and at the North American Continental Championship. So I think in San Diego we'll suddenly see, boom, here comes all the big decks, and then the meta will shake itself out, and then the very following weekend, boom, here are all going to be all the decks to combat the first decks, and then maybe people will be building decks to combat the decks that combated the, so
meta. I'll tell you what I have heard or seen a little bit of is now that Realms is fully out there and everybody's been messing with the cards casually as well. A lot of people have been like, yeah, it's a good thing that they added that we must go warily card. people kind of understand the dangers that were involved there.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy card. So yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of happens with all the Realms of the Elforge stuff.
There's
It
some
should be
great
really good.
stuff in there. I mean, I know you were playing the Site 3 allies a lot in the playtest.
That's right.
And I was doing the 6s.
But that was with the old ROM that did
a lot
all
of stuff changed.
did all the broken stuff.
You
But
know,
I was really having a lot of fun with all the elf stuff. So
that stuff is still fun, even though it's changed.
which is interesting because I have not played much Lord of the Rings since then. But tonight, another thing that I wanted to talk about, we are going to be doing some Two Towers playtesting. So I'm kind of jumping right from like Mines of Moria, kind of right into Two Towers. So I'm going to have a little bit of a catch up, but
a little, but it's it's kind of okay. Two Towers is a uber-sized set that's going to be some standalone.
And honestly, you guys need goobers like me who don't,
Yes.
who are the casual player as opposed to the hardcore
Absolutely,
player.
an important part of the playtesting process.
So I will be the casual player up there today, getting
if nothing
my
else
booty handed
than
to
to
me.
be the poor guy that gets played the broken deck against. I had that pleasure last night at a playtest we did for Two Towers. Somebody played a hideously broken combo against me.
Yeah.
I still won, which was funny, but it was like such a negative, people had stopped and we're all looking at this game, and Joe was like, okay, everybody stop using that card. So
that's what happens in playtest.
Yes.
So, we're going to be doing some playtesting every night this week, and I think this weekend we're coming in to do some playtesting. So our weekend is booked.
Yep.
Fun. Also, last thing I wanted to point out that a story went up on Decipher.com this week that talked about the Two Towers spoiler info email list.
Right.
So, if you want to sign up for that, we're going to be blasting out emails to you guys at least once a week. We're going to try twice, as much as we can, hopefully twice a week. Just get little tidbits of information out there to you about the Two Towers, like. I know Chuck is already working on something.
Excellent.
And I've been working out with all you guys in the TCG studio to make sure that we have a lot of content that's going to be going to all these people. So we're not going to start with the exclusive spoilers right away because it's a little too early for that. We can't really do that until the set is released. So
and little things like play
released,
tested and approval.
Right. It's got to go through approval before we can actually start giving spoilers. But we'll be able to talk about the art. We'll be able to talk about what the designers are actually thinking, and here's a theme that they're wanting to do. We'll be able to talk a lot about it.
I think a lot of people are interested in that question because I get that a lot. What were the designers thinking? Somehow I don't think the tone is quite the same.
Sign up for this email list and you'll find out. So it'll be good stuff.
Okay. That it?
Yep.
That's plenty.
We get an extended weekend. And
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be good. But for all of you out there, enjoy your weekend, and hopefully we'll see you in San Diego or at Gen Con. Fun.
Yeah. Bill is them all. Have a great weekend.